Hello and welcome to Bread and Thread, a podcast about food and domestic history. I'm Liz.
And I'm Hazel. We are two friends who studied archaeology together and love history and making things. And today we have a very special guest who Liz has convinced me to introduce in Welsh. So, croeso.
Yo, yay.
This is Jimmy, who you might know as the Welsh Viking on YouTube. Do you want to say a little bit about yourself?
Sure, I didn't know that was coming. That was a lovely surprise.
Well, neither did I until last week,
Aww.
and then I had to learn how to say things.
Well, I am learning Welsh, but it makes more sense from how we open the show for Hazel to introduce a guest. So it's just like, this is how you say it.
And then I said it.
You did, and you said it well. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
I don't know what to say now because I'm meant to be talking about myself. I guess I also studied archaeology, and I'm still studying archaeology, and love history as well, and make history videos on YouTube, and dress up in cool costumes that I make.
Awesome. They are very cool.
Thank you.
And you should go check out the channel.
Yeah.
Not you, Jimmy. I'm talking to the listeners.
Oh, right. I'll close that. Just close that tab. Right.
So we normally like to start by talking about things we've been making and or baking, because we're also a food history podcast.
Yes.
So yeah, Liz, do you want to start?
Well, I only have large projects, so like I'm making progress on my rag rug.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have to report. I've cut up many old clothes that I kept meaning to get rid of because they were falling apart, and now they're turning into a rug.
That is the rug purpose.
That's pretty much it.
That's so nice, though.
Yeah, it's wholesome.
Yeah, it's such wholesome content.
It's wholesome until you get to the point where I'm swearing at it because it won't go through the holes in the Hessian.
I think swearing at crafts is like a given.
That's true. We do not swear on this podcast, but I do swear in real life.
Yeah. Is it even a project?
Just so you know, kids.
Is it even a real project if you haven't sworn at it and or bled in it?
Yes. This week I finished... Wait, I meant to say no.
I see. Okay. I thought you were just shutting me down like, oh.
Hard disagree that. No, this week I finished the shell for my dress form. I'm like making a dress form that is meant to be like me, but that I can stick pins into on purpose. And I've never sworn at anything so much in my life. There's a lot more structural sewing than I'm used to, but it's done, and it appears to work. So the next thing I have to do is collect a large bag of unspinnable wool from my boyfriend's mum to use as stuffing. And I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but that was offered to me, and I don't have any polyfill, so we'll find out.
It's such a cool project.
I love that you have two sources for wool because you're just that countryside.
Well, actually, if you count the nice man who owns the pub in the village and our postman, I have three sources.
I was counting the postman. He was
the postman,
number 2 in my head.
Stuart, the postman, who I'm pretty sure does not listen to this podcast, but he's wonderful, and he is also a shepherd and sometimes leaves wool on my doorstep.
That's so charmingly bucolic. That's wonderful.
It's very nice.
It's like one of the less racist Tennyson poems. Oh,
good.
That's nice.
What about you?
I've mostly been working on my PhD thesis, but
that counts.
That counts. Does that count?
It does.
Yeah,
I've been doing
I've been crafting my PhD thesis to a finely honed point. as much as I can. I can't do any field work at the minute because I live in Scotland and
Mhm.
I'm still not allowed to leave my local authority, which is a bit of a bummer when my field work is all meant to be up in the Western Isles of Scotland and I live in Edinburgh. Yeah. But apart from that, I have been working on a Viking dress for myself.
Awesome.
It is made of some lovely Harris tweed
Oh.
that I got from the Isle of Harris while I was there.
That's impressive.
Yeah, that's mostly it, crafts-wise, I think. What else have I been making? Have I made anything else? I'm just looking over sort of blankly at my partner, who is... Oh, yes. Yeah, I've ordered some fabric to make myself some new cloth armor as well. I'm making a gambeson.
Ah.
I just ordered lots of yards of linen for that, and that's about it, really. Productivity-wise, I'm not at my peak.
What is your peak? Is it just like endless variations of historicalness?
Yeah, endless sewing. Sewing furiously on like too many projects at once. But I don't know. I feel like the lockdown has just kind of been taking up some energy that I would normally have put into crafts somehow. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think I found, especially for a lot of last year into this winter, was quite not kind of feeling the usual do all the things energy.
Yeah, I think it's like a combination of academic workload and also surviving lockdown means I'm not like knitting a tea cozy and a pair of gloves and learning a new craft and sewing Viking clothes at the same time. I'm just kind of going, maybe I'll sew half an inch of seam tonight. Maybe I won't. We'll see.
Achievement.
So,
Genuinely, though.
I believe you're going to teach us about a Viking craft.
I mean, I'm going to sort of talk about it. The amount I can actually teach about it is probably very limited.
If you know more than someone else and you tell them about it, you're teaching them.
All right, then. Well, then I'm teaching about Nalbinding. Nalbinding. Sorry, Nalbinding.
That's how you say it. Okay,
Yeah,
Nalbinding.
Say it Nalbind. I was told off by one of my subscribers for saying Nalbind, but it's pronounced it's got a little circle above the A.
Yeah,
so it's Nalbinding.
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 Yeah.
Okay.
It means binding with a needle. Needle binding.
A knoll.
A knoll, y'all.
It's a good word.
It is. I'm okay. In that case, I'm very excited because I have tried to learn Nalbinding and failed.
Yeah,
very much.
Nick bought me a book on it, and I couldn't get my head around it.
Yeah,
it's magic.
It's witchcraft.
It's magic. It's amazing. It is witchcraft. I have a friend who has made me Nalbind socks, and they're beautiful and wonderful, and they're warm and snuggly. But it's just so mysterious.
Magic sock.
The magic socks of Shoggoth, or of Jen. I mean, she's called Jen, not Shoggoth. So yeah. But yeah, it is a very old craft. Very, very old indeed. The oldest piece of Nalbind that we have is from Israel, and it's from circa 6500 BC.
Wow.
So it is super old.
Mm-hmm.
Like nearly 8,000 years old. And you can do it with loads of stuff. You can do it with wool fiber. There is a piece from Denmark, from a Mesolithic fishing village that was made using lime bast, so like lime sort of fiber made from lime tree fiber.
No way.
Yes,
I've heard of a lot of plants being used for making clothing, but lime trees.
Yes,
That's
not like
basically paper.
the citrus tree, like the linden tree, lime tree,
okay, I see.
which is slightly less cool, but still cool.
I mean, it's still paper string.
It's still paper string. The sort of Coptic Egypt, we've got lots of examples of it from early Christian Egypt. Nazca culture, Peru, somewhere around sort of 150 AD, I think we've got examples of it from. So it's this amazing craft that people seem to have independently used all over the world, and it's sort of knitting, but not knitting, but also not crochet, and you use a needle, not a hook. Yeah,
that's really interesting, because when I think of Nalbinding, I very much associate it with the Vikings.
Yeah,
but I mean, I kind of knew about it in Egypt, but I didn't realize it was so worldwide.
I know, it's crazy. I think there's still a tribe in Peru where it's their sort of, it's kind of their cultural practice. Like, it's one of the idiosyncrasies of their tribe is that they do Nalbind, and all of the other sort of tribes around. I really hope tribe is the word to use in this case. I think it is. Don't really practice it anymore, but the women of this one tribe up in the hills or mountains in Peru just sit and Nalbind gloves and hats and socks and all kinds of amazing things. But yeah, we've got loads of Viking Age, and like probably the most famous one probably from the UK is the York sock that they found in Coppergate, and it's just a single sock.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We did our undergrad
lovely.
in York. We have seen the Coppergate sock.
That's lad. I did my master's in York, so I too have seen the Coppergate sock.
It's a good sock.
It is a good sock.
Yeah, we have all pronounced it a good sock.
It is a fine sock, officially. But yeah, basically you make a loop with your yarn, and then you make a loop in the loop, and then you make a loop in that loop, and then you carry on until you've got a ring of loops that is connected to the first loop, so that it is a solid piece. And you try not to, so it's not like knitting or crochet where like you tighten things up as you go. You don't want to tighten up the loops that you make in Nalbinding, is what I've been told by the many people who are better at it than me. So like you make a loop at the size that you want it, and that's why so many people find it so tricky, because it's laborious and time consuming to make sure every single loop of yarn that you make is exactly the right size and tension before moving on to the next one.
Okay. So like where in knitting you have your needles which make all the loops exactly the same size, you don't have that here. You just have to individually make them the same size.
Yes.
Like manually.
And you've only got one needle to play with as well, which just makes everything more complicated. Just what you want in a craft is, make it as difficult and complicated as possible.
I mean, presumably this is why we later developed all of the other yarn crafts.
I would imagine. I mean, it was being used at the same time as knitting in sort of the 12th, 13th centuries in some parts of Northern Europe, we think. But yeah, knitting and crochet. I can knit and crochet a storm. Like I can knit you whatever you want, bro. But I can't Nalbind to save my life. I mean, to save my life, probably I could, but it wouldn't be much of a life. It'd still take a finger or something. Like it'd still be.
I imagine there would be quite a lot of pressure in that situation, so you might not be that good at it.
No, I get performance anxiety, so I think I'd probably choke. I'd be like, Nalbind me a Coppergate sock replica, and I'd be like, oh god, no! And then I'd be sick, and then I'd faint, and then I'd wake up and like, no kidney.
I'm just trying to work out how bad you'd have to be at Nalbinding to lose a finger.
Like whilst doing it,
like in a tragic Nalbinding accident.
Might lose a finger.
In a freak Nalbind accident. I meant like whoever is forcing me to make stuff for them would probably get bored and be like, right, no,
I was just imagining like you get it caught in one of the loops and just tighten and tighten.
And then don't notice, and all of a sudden your finger drops off, and you're like, "Oh, whoops." I wouldn't put it past myself.
And that is why you have to be very, very careful.
That's why I have to be. That's why I have to be very. That's why I'm a YouTuber and not a professional Nalbinder, and I get my friends to make them for me instead. But yeah, that's Nalbind is like the very, very old fibercraft that we all associate with the Vikings is actually nearly 8,000 years old, which is crazy. When I found that out, I was mind blown.
That's incredible.
I was just amazed that like we've got a worked organic fiber from that far back is in itself just awesome. But Israel seems to be really lucky in terms of like their fiber finds and stuff. They get lots of wool and
yeah, they had in the Tyrion Purple episode that we did, the latest, oldest find of the actual purple wool with the purple dye on it came from Israel, I think.
Amazing. So lucky. But yeah, that's most of my knowledge on Nalbinding. I think it's fabulous. I'm no good at it. I'm really no good at it. I've managed to make the chain. I'm looking right now. I'm sat on my bed holding an initial chain of loops that are connected to each other, and that is the most successful Nalbinding I've ever done. And I did it to try and remember how you do it for this episode. So I'm very proud of myself.
Excellent. So one of the things I know from having tried to learn to nullbind is that you have on your needle you have a length of thread, and that's what you've got. So when you get to the end of it, you have to join another one on. So when you're using wool, you can do that by just applying moisture and friction. But if you're using a plant fiber, how do you join a new one on?
You'd have to knot it.
Okay.
I assume. I mean, I imagine you'd have to knot it together. I don't know anyone who's knobbed with plant fiber. I don't think. But I imagine you'd have to tie it onto the old yarn. I guess.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how the fiber's processed. Because I know with bamboo yarn you can attach it the same way as with wool, but I don't know if the lime would act the same way.
Okay.
I wonder. That's really interesting. I didn't know you could do that with bamboo. That's really good to know. Some bamboo yarn. Maybe I'll try Nalbinding with some bamboo. Let everybody know the hilarious results.
Yeah, you should do it.
Do it. I'm going to give it a go. See how it goes.
Experimental archaeology.
Exactly. For the win.
So when I was trying to learn Nalbinding, the needle I ended up getting was this kind of flat, slightly bent piece of wood. Like, is that how? Like, what evidence do we have for actual needles? Are they like that, or is that just what someone decided to do?
We've got a few different sort of. They're all kind of similar in terms of the form, in terms of the general shape. So they are usually flattened, sort of. What should we call it? Like a flattened, like an oval, sort of like an oval in profile. And they range from kind of an inch and a bit long to like 3 inches long, something along those lines, with a hole at one end, quite well pointed at the other end. Like they tend to be fairly sharp. And then I think some of them are quite sharply bent, like they almost look like a leatherworker's needle for doing tunnel stitch. But the majority of them are pretty straight. Like they don't really have an obvious hooked shape or anything like that. Mine is made of bone. I think the majority of the ones that we've got are either bone, antler, or wood. I've got a friend who's got a metal one, but I don't know how that affects it, the craft wise. Like I don't know if it being slipperier than the bone ones that obviously like they're porous, so they can catch on the yarn a bit. I don't know if that helps, like it does with knitting needles. But something to experiment with. Yeah, I think the vast majority. I'm fine. Yeah, I think the vast majority of the ones we've got tend to be made of wood or bone, and they're kind of. I'm trying to think of a good way of describing the shape other than needle shaped, which isn't very helpful.
It's hard to do this over an audio medium. Yeah.
It is. I'm trying to think like if you think of like a chopstick where they're not the shape of a sewing needle, they're the shape of a chopstick, but much, much shorter. So like imagine you've cut a wooden chopstick in half, rounded its bum end, and then made a hole in it. That's kind of their shape. And then some of the antler ones have got like quite freaky shaped ends. Like they've got very, very odd, very organic, kind of knobbly shaped ends, which are very attractive in their own way. Yeah, that's kind of the shape. They're long and thin, and they've got a hole in one end. Yes. I'm good at this.
I'm sorry for dragging you from the world of video for this.
I'm descriptive. One of the real advantages of it is it's very good for insulation and trapping heat, like knitting and crocheting are, because of all the air trapped in. It's really, really good at it, and it's also very easy to make into intricate shapes. So some of the Coptic Egyptian socks are like ankle height, two-toed socks, which
we'll take a picture of that when this episode goes up, because I've seen it described in multiple places as the lobster sock.
The lobster sock, yes, exactly. But they're amazing, and they're so intricate looking. But if you're good at Nalbind, you can throw these things out. You can start a little production line. And I know people who can Nalbind a pair of socks relatively quickly, and it looks very impressive, and they're warm. But I think it's like knitting and crocheting, where you can make very intricate shapes with relatively few skills, like relatively few techniques. Like it's one technique, right? One stitch, basically. You have to learn one stitch, and once you're good at that stitch, you can make shrugs. Whatever you want to make. You want to make socks, you want to make mittens, you want to make gloves, you want to make a hat. Go for it. Like do whatever you want. I think the reason it's not or wasn't, I don't really know anyone who does, used for bigger garments is it is quite labor intensive as a craft. Like it does take more work than knitting, I think, and crocheting. Definitely more than crocheting. I mean, I learned to crochet drunk in a pub on the Isle of Man in half an hour, so
anyone can.
If I can, ham-fisted goon, anyone can. Yeah, I think that's its advantage, is its flexibility in terms of making intricately shaped, smaller garments that will keep you snug.
Yeah, I can see that that kind of buildability, if that's a word, being handy, because if you're trying to shape a woven fabric to your foot or something, it's gonna be a little tricky. You're gonna have that annoying seam, whereas if you're Nalbinding, you can just go round and round and just kind of build it up as you go in that 3D shape.
Yeah, like crochet, right? Because if you crochet, like a baby hat or something, you're just going round and round and round and round and round. Yeah, makes sense to me. I could be wrong. I could be lying. There could be like hordes of Nalbinders, if that's what you call yourself, waiting to tell me I'm wrong. There's always somebody listening to what I'm saying, waiting to tell me I'm wrong. I hate being on YouTube.
I mean, I like to think of it more charitably than that. It's more the. I'm not sure if anyone. I don't know. Maybe they do. I don't know what goes through the minds of.
No,
people,
everybody's fabulous. All fabulous.
Our listeners are lovely.
I
Your
just
listeners are
like
lovely.
they are good. I just like the idea of somebody like just browsing YouTube, ready for like, oh, I wonder who I'm going to prove wrong this time.
I do get comments from people who are like that. I'm told that they're like that by fellow members of the Big Red video website community. Will be like, oh, that guy, yeah, he always turns up at videos. And I'm like, oh right. Oh, crikey.
I mean, that just means you're successful if you're getting
Yeah.
trolls.
Oh yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? As soon as you get trolls, it means that you're an internet success. Love that. That's my 2 cents on why it's popular as a technique for certain things. Because yeah, people have asked me to think sometimes like, oh, do we have any evidence that they use Nalbin to make like tunics or dresses or what have you? And we don't really. But again, from an early medieval context, you wouldn't really expect much of them to have survived anyway from Northern Europe. But it's kind of like you can crochet full dress if you want, or you can knit a full floor-length dress if you want. Don't. But you can if you like. Like somebody way back when probably did make a full-length garment out of Nalbind, but they couldn't feel their hands for a while afterwards, probably because it must have taken just yonks to do.
I imagine it would be very heavy as well, because the amount of yarn that you're using is a lot more than what you would use for just weaving. That's what makes it warm,
like make
right?
granny square blankets and stuff. I wonder if there were people who like made Nalbind blankets and snugglies and stuff for babies and like turned up like, oh, I've made him a blanket, it'll keep him nice and warm. It's just this massive, heavy, awesome Nalbin thing. Like, hey, I'll put him in that, he'll grow into it.
I mean, I imagine a Scandinavian baby would be quite thankful for something that thick and cozy.
Some of the Viking clothes that we've got that have survived, you're just like, wow, it's always been cold up there, eh, lads? It's just amazing. Thickness of some of the wool. There's a piece in the Yorkshire Museum actually of I think it's 10th sort of 9 plus minus 50 years, 950 AD ish, that they found in Coppergate, and it's just the thickest, roughest piece of woven cloth you've ever seen. Like each strand is like as thick as your pinky finger. It's amazing.
Wow.
It's so cool. Like it looks, meaty.
I mean, I know that they were.
Next time I'm in York.
So cool. It's lovely. I think it's in that weird display they've got going down the stairs into the basement where nothing's got any kind of interpretation next to it. It's just like, here's some stuff. Enjoy.
Oh, I know that one. It bothers me, that display.
Oh, bless them, they try. It's a superb, it's a great museum. Go to the Yorkshire Museum. Everyone go to the Yorkshire Museum, but yeah.
It is good.
I mean, I have a grudge against all the museums in York because none of them are free.
But the Roman Bath Museum is cheap.
And under a pub.
It is cheap and under a pub, but also museums should be free.
Agreed.
Yeah, no, agreed.
What's the point of the National Museums Act 2001 if it doesn't extend to everything?
Exactly. You have no idea. The one essay in my master's in museum studies that I got a distinction in was the one about how museums should be free. I have feelings.
I get so many friends from North America who come over and I'll take them to the National Museum Scotland or the V&A or the BM or something, and they're like, get their wallets out ready to pay, and I'll be like, oh no, we don't do that here. You don't need that.
And then York is just sitting there mocking us.
Yeah. Give us
rubbing
your money. We are the city of York.
Rubbing its fat belly, smoking a cigar in a top hat, like, capital up north. It's not a thing. Stop it.
That is the exact noise I hear every time I have to pay for museum.
16 quid. or however much it is to get into York Museum's
Oh
museum.
gosh, yeah, it's they all do the one where you like they're like, oh, it's expensive, but you can come in for a whole year, and you're like, that's great. I'm only here for 2 days.
Yeah. Tourists are like, well, I guess we're going to have to come on this incredibly expensive holiday again this year then.
No, we're just staying in York for a year. I'm just going to apply to the university. That's how I went to York.
Join the club, yeah.
We had a mission to go to every museum in York while we lived there. It was pretty great.
Oh yeah, did we do that?
I know I did. I don't remember if you went to the Chocolate Museum.
I've not been to the Chocolate Museum, but I have been to Goddard's house, which has the very last Terry's chocolate orange ever made in York.
Yes, we talked about this, didn't we?
An amazing artifact. I bet it's rank now as well inside the wrapper.
Oh, it's got all that white stuff on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd still eat it for archaeology.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Science.
For science. Like all of the food in Captain Scott's cabin in the Antarctic that's still technically edible. Like, shall we crack a bully beef for science?
Didn't Ranulph Fiennes eat one of? Oh, no, he. I think he bought one of the biscuits from the Scott expedition.
Wow.
I was about to say I think he ate it, but I don't think that's actually true. But I do remember because it was quite a large sum of money.
Ranulph, if there's an article somewhere on like Vice that Ranulph Fiennes has got galloping botulism or something, we'll know that he did the thing.
I'm just going to check if that's true or not, or if I just made that up. I'm Googling Ranulph Fiennes biscuit.
Careful.
No, it's true. It's true. It was a biscuit found next to Scott's body, and it was auctioned for £4,000, and it was bought by Sir Ranulph Fiennes.
Wow!
In 90. Yeah. As far as I can tell, he did not eat it.
You didn't even eat it. There's a man with too much money. I went really Welsh then. I get Welsh when I perceive like unnecessary grandeur. Who do you think he is buying a biscuit?
He did give it to the UK Antarctic Heritage Trust.
So, considering quite how off topic we've got, shall we move on to the local larder?
Let's.
I'm sorry, that was all my fault.
We don't normally get this off topic. Yeah, it is entirely your fault. You should feel bad.
Apologise.
So, I want to talk about a surprisingly controversial cake.
You just went very Lancashire. I'm excited. This is going to be good.
This is what happens when I say cake.
You did as well.
In my defense, I'm from Lancashire.
Well, that's all right then.
Colin the Caterpillar.
Oh.
I assume you've both seen about the controversy.
You're opening a can of worms here.
Or
a can of caterpillars.
The most controversial cake in the world.
Right. Do you want to explain the controversy for any listeners who may not be in the UK?
Okay, so in 1990, Marks and Spencer, probably the most middle-class supermarket until Waitrose came along. Tell me I'm wrong.
Can't.
Launched a cake called Colin the Caterpillar, which is basically it's a chocolate Swiss roll covered in chocolate and basically Smarties with a white chocolate face with milk chocolate eyes. Those details will be important later. Became incredibly popular, probably as a combination of the 80s trend for food that looks like other things, which was genuinely a big thing in the 80s, probably combined with the book The Very Hungry Caterpillar, which Yeah, was published in 1969, but by the 90s was basically every child in Britain reads this book. And it very quickly became a staple of kids' parties. Celebrity fans actually include Judi Dench, David Beckham, and David Cameron. Genuinely, Judi Dench's 83rd birthday, she had a Colin the Caterpillar.
The
That's
queen.
fantastic. She is living.
I love Judi Dench. I think it's also... I can't remember if it's her or Helen Mirren that embroider swear words, but Judi Dench did once play D&D with Vin Diesel.
That's incredible factoid.
So yeah, basically every supermarket has its own knockoff version. But then Aldi, most of the knockoff versions, they have like fondant faces, they have sprinkles, all these different things that make it distinct.
Mm-hmm.
And then Aldi, the opposite of Marks and Spencer, brings out a caterpillar cake with Smarties, white chocolate face, milk chocolate eyes, virtually identical packaging. And understandably, I think, there was a time when I was on Aldi's side, and then I learned more. With it being that similar, Marks and Spencer's just went, no, this one is very blatantly just copying us. Please stop it. Aldi's one is called Cuthbert, so Free Cuthbert was trending on UK Twitter for a while.
The main reason this is so topical, right, is because it's
The
just become
legal
a Twitter
case is
war.
ongoing.
It's like a Twitter war between supporters of Marks and Spencer's and Aldi.
I do think my favourite part, though, is that a chippy in Cleethorpes, which is, believe in Lincolnshire,
Lincolnshire, North Lincolnshire, yeah.
is selling deep-fried mini Colin the Caterpillars and raising money for the Teenage Cancer Trust with it.
Be right back. Gotta go to Cleethorpes.
Said no one ever.
So yeah, it's just this huge controversy, and there isn't a lot of history to it, but I wanted to share it with our listeners because a lot of them aren't based in the UK and don't know about the cake controversy.
But it is everywhere here right now. It's headline news here right now, isn't it?
It is, as I said on Twitter the other day, it is all kicking off in the cake fandom.
It is indeed. Okay, so what changed your mind? Because I think last time I spoke to you, you were on Aldi's side in this whole controversy.
Well, the way that the Free Cuthbert side portrays it is very much Marks and Spencer going after Aldi because they are they're the cheap supermarket. They aren't allowed to copy it, even though everyone else is.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found out that it is virtually identical. And Marks and Spencer's argument is basically because it's so identical, it's not just here's another cake that looks like a caterpillar, it's here is a copy.
Yeah, having seen them side by side, like the faces do look the same.
It is pretty blatant. I've just pulled it up. Yeah.
And I mean, I know my caterpillar cakes. I've had one for every one of my 26 birthdays. True facts.
You're a connoisseur.
I am.
Oh.
But there's a lot of variations of Colin the Caterpillar now, which I enjoy. And there's also, last year they marked the 30th anniversary by declaring the 26th of August National Colin the Caterpillar Day. They launched bags of Colin the Caterpillar faces.
Oh no, I don't like
That's
that.
a word I have to say very carefully in this accent. There's also a 40 serving version.
40 serving Colin the Caterpillar?
That's a big caterpillar.
That's an anaconda.
There is Connie the Caterpillar, which is a girl one with a pink bow because everything has to be gendered.
Oh, that's how you know it's a girl.
In 2017, they launched bride and groom cakes.
Oh,
Each one weighs 2 kilos, and they are dressed as a bride and groom.
I'm gonna see this. I'm gonna find.
This year they also had Colin the Caterpillar Easter eggs.
How do you get an Easter egg to look like a caterpillar?
You put in a bag of the faces.
Oh.
I wasn't ready for the bride and groom. He's got a little bow tie.
I'll tweet a picture of that as well because it's the most adorable thing.
Oh, I think we need to tweet this.
Oh, that's so sweet.
But I thought I would play a little game with you two.
Okay.
I'm calling it Guess the Caterpillar. I'm going to tell you the name of a knockoff caterpillar cake, and you're going to guess which supermarket it's from.
Ooh.
Okay.
I'm only going to do 3 because every supermarket has one, but I'm just going to do 3. Wiggles.
Wiggles.
Wiggles the caterpillar.
Wiggles. That sounds like it might. I'm going to go for Waitrose because they've got a W in their name.
Okay, I think I'm going to go Tesco. That sounds like something they might do, in an effort to try and make it distinct.
Nope, that's Sainsbury's.
Oh!
Oh.
It's a bit left field.
I'll tell you, Tesco's is curly.
Okay.
I find that very amusing, and I'm not sure why.
What about Cecil the caterpillar?
Cecil the caterpillar.
Cecil. Buy this children's cake. It's called Cecil.
I feel. Wait. From the tone.
Oh, is that going to be Waitrose?
I reckon that's Waitrose because that sounds. Cecil's quite a posh name.
That is indeed Waitrose.
Yeah.
This last one's an easy one. Morris the caterpillar.
Oh.
Asda.
Is it Morrison's?
It is Morrison's.
Yeah.
I would be angry if it wasn't.
Yeah,
other ones include, Clyde is the Asda one.
Clyde!
Clive at One Stop. I didn't even know One Stop had them.
Wow.
Clive!
Co-op's one doesn't even have one. It's just called the Curious Caterpillar, and I feel weirdly sorry for it.
It doesn't have a name.
Oh, I'm amazed One Stop's got its own.
Yeah. I just can't get over Clyde. It sounds like the caterpillar's about to rob a bank.
Member of a vicious criminal gang. Oh.
I'm gonna have to find out what Asda's girl one's called because I know they do have a girl one, and if it's not Bonnie, I'm gonna be very disappointed.
Oh, it's gotta be Clyde. That's so good. That was more challenging than I was expecting.
Oh, that's disappointing. It's Frida.
Oh.
Oh.
Cowards. They do, however, also do a giant one.
Okay.
So you don't have to go to Marks and Spencer's for your giant caterpillar cake.
I might ask for a caterpillar cake for my birthday this year because I didn't get I had a nice birthday last year, but it was a lockdown birthday because my birthday's in May. I might ask if I can have a caterpillar.
I mean, everyone's had a lockdown birthday now.
True. I'm not special. Okay, I get it, but
but you can have caterpillar cake.
Have you had the? Is it always a Colin that you have on your birthday?
It's just whichever supermarket. Like my parents shop at a couple of different ones. When I lived in York, I think when I lived in York, I got the Sainsbury's one. Now we get the Asda one.
Do you have a preference, or?
I mean, I do have a preference for the Colin just because it has the chocolate face, and I don't like fondant. There's a fun fact about me.
Good to know. Imagine if this had been like an in-person studio recording and I'd brought a load of fondant fancies and you hadn't eaten them.
Yeah.
That would have been mortifying for everyone involved.
That could be a really awkward situation.
See, it's a thing that Nick enjoys though, because it means when they get fondant fancies, I don't ask for any.
fancies. More for me. More for me.
So yeah, there's an introduction to Free Cuthbert and probably one of my favourite British things, the caterpillar cake.
The Free Cuthbert movement.
One day they'll have their own banner in the People's History.
Yeah, the next exhibition is the caterpillar freedom movement of 2021.
There's definitely been weirder museum displays. Maybe.
I mean,
Maybe
it depends on how you define weird.
I mean, I don't niche kind of. It is. I mean, it's rapidly becoming a cultural phenomenon, and it is a very British thing. Like, there's probably not a Brit who doesn't at least kind of recognize the caterpillar cake as a thing. So maybe it isn't a weird thing to put as a museum display. Maybe, I don't know. Don't look at me. I'm just an archaeologist. I just dig them up. You put them in the museum.
I guess
what do you
I
want
am
from me?
a museum person here.
I do kind of want to go into an M&S, grab the collar, and just go, it belongs in a museum.
You like in Temple of Doom and replace it with something of an equal weight.
Replace it with a Cuthbert.
Replace it with a Cuthbert.
See if anyone notices.
That's the ultimate
Security.
test for their legal case, is can they tell that it's been replaced?
Security guard walks past an hour later. Oh, my God! Sound the alarm. Colin's been kidnapped.
So I want to thank people for listening. This was a really fun episode.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming on our podcast.
I warned you about the chaos energy. I tried to warn you. I'm sorry.
I think it went in a constructive direction.
Yeah, so if you want to yell at us about caterpillar cakes, or say hi, or suggest an episode, or any of that jazz, we have an email address, breadandthreadpodcast@gmail.com.
We also have a Twitter @breadandthread, where you can see teasers on what's coming up. You can see things that we say we're going to tweet about, that you can see with your eyes instead of just hearing with your ears. And we have a Patreon, which is also Bread and Thread.
It is.
I should know that. Which has recipes and a Discord server. Do we have anything else?
We have a Tumblr.
We do have a Tumblr!
Which is also Bread and Thread, which has so far largely just been me talking about the episode and reblogging random food-related things.
So
but,
come see.
That sounds really nice, to be fair.
Interact with it, and I will interact with you.
Yeah.
Jimmy, I believe this episode comes out on the 9th of May. I believe you are doing a thing that day.
I am. I'm running a charity 5K wearing my Viking chainmail. I say it's Viking chainmail. It's fairly good for late Roman to 11th century. Anyway, I'm running a charity 5K up here in Edinburgh for Stonewall, which is a charity that helps LGBT plus people who are being marginalised or struggling in lots of different ways. We've already raised £2,000, and we have a Just Giving page, which is justgiving.com/fundraiser or fundraising /the Welsh Viking. Just type the Welsh Viking into Just Giving, and I'll turn up. Yeah,
personally,
I'll turn up at your house. Yeah,
with a bag with a pound sign on it.
The pound sign and a small ineffective mask across my eyes.
That sounds like an absolute mission. Good luck.
Thank you. As we record, I've already pulled a muscle in my calf training for it, so it's going well. It's genuinely going well. It's going to be great. It's going to be really cool. It's going to be fun. I've got a couple of friends doing it with me. So yeah, if anybody is in Edinburgh, come and watch 3 sweaty men running in the park. I've finished. I've stopped.
So yeah, thank you for listening, and I don't know what the next episode's going to be on. You'll have to wait and find out.